All right, so yeah, let's do the second shot, which is the second shot in the sequence and also the actual second shot. So shot 020. And this one has a real close-up of a leaf there. And the problem is, because I already know this because I already did this before, is that the plants that we have, like they look great, but they don't hold up in the close-up. So there's just not a lot of resolution because the sort of the atlas of the texture is just not high resolution enough. So if you zoom in, it's going to get really blurry and just doesn't look great. But I have a solution for that, and for that solution, I am going to jump back in front of the camera, and I have an actual plant here. So it's a little mint plant, and it looks similar to the plant that we have, apart from the fact that it died a little bit on some parts because I bought this a couple of days ago, or like a week ago almost. Like I cook with this, I make tea with it, stuff like that. So get one of these. Something else you need, and by the way, I will supply you with all the stuff. You don't have to go out, but if you want, you don't have to go and buy a plant. But if you want to follow along and like do everything yourself, it might be cool to actually buy a plant. Most grocery stores should have a mint plant. So you take one leaf from it. So here I have one. It's pretty good. Another thing you're gonna need is a camera that can do macro photography, or a phone that could do macro. Originally when I did mine, I didn't even have a macro lens, so I actually just used my regular cam. I have a Sony a6400, and I don't remember which lens I used. I either used the 18mm that's on here now, or I used the 50mm. I don't remember which one I used. But if it's high megapixel enough, even if you don't have a macro lens, and you can just get a very sharp picture, you can do that by really cranking up the f-stop. So it's not going to be out of focus and just zooming in, and you're going to have a good picture. Or if you have a relatively modern phone, like I have an iPhone 13 Pro here, which has a macro mode, which is going to be quite nice. So that will allow you to get really close in on whatever it is you're doing. I'm not sure if I can show this on camera, but all right. So if I, right, there we go. Yeah, you can see you can get, it's getting a little bit of reflection from my lamp. Right. So you can see get really close. That's good with the light going through it. That's something you need. So a modern phone like a iPhone 13 Pro Max or a Galaxy S21 Ultra or something along those lines that has macro mode will do just fine. So that's something you need. And then you can do this as professional as you want. I'm doing it sort of the hacky way. Like this is not, I would probably do it professionally, but whatever. Get some paper, a couple of pieces of paper. You're going to put your little, wait, let me just move everything down here. All right. So anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to get your leaf, put it on a piece of paper. You're going to put another piece of paper on top of it because you can see it's not really sitting flat here. And I also see I have some crap on this, so make sure it's somewhat clean. Put another piece of paper on top because we're gonna want to flatten it out. We're gonna put like something like a book on top of it, just to and this is Brandon Sanderson, great writer, one of my favorite writers. Way of Kings from Stormlight Archive, amazing book series. Like, mark my words, it is going to be bigger than Game of Thrones. Also read Mistborn. Anyway, I'm trying to always use every opportunity I get to shill Brandon Sanderson and Mistborn, Stormlight Archive. So I've done my duty. Anyway, put it on, put something on there. I guess just press it a little bit. As long as it's somewhat flat, like you don't want to completely ruin the leaf, but it needs to be somewhat flat so you can get a proper picture from it. All right. I should clean my keyboard. Right. So do something like that. All right, I'm gonna leave these on a little bit longer, and then after that I'm gonna come back because it needs to be a little bit flatter. All right, so this is still not perfect, but it's good enough probably. So we're gonna open up our thing, do the macro mode. And if you have some extra lights, you probably want to use as little or is like you want this to be somewhat uniform. If I can get a flash from this, it might be good. So let me see what it's going to be like with the flash. This might ruin the picture, but I'm going to just try it out. Right, I'm going to do it without the flash, I think. We're going to need this to be somewhat uniform. So there's a little bit of a problem with the light. You actually want this to be as diffuse as possible. If there are some shadows, we can get rid of it, but so it might actually be best to try this in daylight. Actually looking pretty good. Let's see if I can get an even better one. Right, I'm also gonna, while it's still light outside, I'm also gonna try one in daylight. Right, so I've taken a whole bunch of pictures. So I guess let's evaluate those. Not all of them are great. Some have way too much shadow. So I've tried also with the different lenses. But I think right, this one looks pretty good. See, there's some parts that are not completely sharp. As long as we can get a decent texture out of it later, might be good enough. I'm just going to compare this with my original one. So these were all the original pictures that I took. I think I ended up using this one. I think that one is probably gonna give me better results than this. Still, this still wasn't completely sharp. This was all still a little bit smudgy. But let's just use one of the new ones, maybe. Just cool for the tutorial. Not sure which one I'm gonna use. There's not really any particular one that I really like. I think this one is probably the best. So I'm gonna grab this one. Let's take it into Photoshop. Right, so we're here in Photoshop. So I have this thing, and you can see it's still like it's not amazing. I might try some more pictures during daylight tomorrow because it was getting a little bit dark. But let's just try with this one for now. So let's just try to make this work. So first, what I probably want to do is I want to cut this thing out. That's going to be the most important now. Later, we're going to make an actual texture from this. Probably also already going to do that with this step, so we can actually evaluate if this is actually proper. So let's just start cutting this out. So probably fastest thing would be to go to our, where is it? I know the icons here might be a little small because Photoshop does the UI automatically and I'm on a 4K screen. Quick select, I'm gonna use select subject, see if it actually works. So that does seem to work. It just also grabs the shadows. But let's just paste it in an empty layer. Just go in here. And let's just erase those parts. Again, like the better your picture is going to be, the better the quality is going to be. But so you probably want to make sure if you're going to do this yourself that you probably have a better picture than I have right now. Looks pretty decent. Let's save it out. Right, so I'm just gonna save it into the design folder here and call it leaf cutout V001. We just duplicate the layer there. Probably don't want to do that much here. Maybe what we want to do, because actually what I kind of want, I want a square format from my texture. So maybe what we want to do instead is actually create a new thing here. And let's make a 2K texture, 2048 by 2048. I just know that Substance Alchemist, or whatever Adobe calls it these days, I always keep forgetting, that it just prefers having square images. And why is my selection going weird? Right, it's weird. Right, so let's put that in there. Let's paste it in here. Let's make it a smart object for now. All right, something like that. Let's hide. So maybe we want to save out this one instead. You know what? Let's just call this V002. Right, so we have some leaf cutout as a 2K texture. Like preferably you might want to go higher, like 4K, but like just the resolution of my image here doesn't allow that. But I think it will be fine for what we're going to be doing. Right, so let's open Substance 3D Sampler. It's called these days, it was called Alchemist before, but now they renamed it to 3D Sampler. It's an Adobe thing. Yes, all right. Create a new one. Let's save it. You see, I already tried it once, so save it out as a leaf texture. Depending on your presets, like your thing might not be set up to view as a grid. You can go to viewer settings and then you can change what you want to display. So let's put a plane and put texture scale to 1 by 1. So that's a tiling. So you don't really see anything as of right now, but let's just start dragging our image on there. So let's go in there. You're going to get a pop-up menu. It's going to ask you image, what do you want to do? Image to material, AI powered. All right, let's press OK. It's going to load it in the PSD and it's going to do an image to material thing. So it's going to try to sort of do to make a image from this thing. As you can see, it didn't pick up on the alpha. We can add that manually ourselves. All right, so I'm not an expert in this program. So I want to add opacity. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here in the base material that we can change. I'm honestly not sure how to add opacity because like I cannot load it in here, but I know that if I use image to material B2M, so that's another one, so then it adds the opacity. So let's just throw it in there. So then it's gonna do the image to material, then later it's gonna do the opacity. So now we have opacity in, I guess. But you can see the AI powered image to material does a pretty good job with like just having it look a little bit better as of a material. Right. Anyway, on the AI material here, you have a whole bunch of properties in order to do things. For example, like the details for the displacement. So let's just play a little bit with that. You can see it's gonna generate displacement from that. You can go to your shader settings here and we can increase the height scale if we want to see it a little bit more extreme. Probably don't want so many micro details. Right, geometry equalizer. So that sort of flattens it out a little bit. Roughness as a base value, you can see you can make it more specular or more rough. I guess we don't want it to be too rough because we're gonna have a little bit of a wet leaf. I guess just play with these things. Like, I'm not an expert here. Just play with stuff that you think looks good. I think the texture is pretty decent. Like, it, not 100% sure if it will hold up, but again, you can just make this as good as you can. Like, probably if you're gonna do this for production, you're gonna want to get a better texture than you want, than you have. My original here worked a little bit better than the one I have right now, but let's just still keep it with this one for the tutorial, just because it's fun to just have done the whole thing from scratch. But yeah, just like you can do your own. I'll include both of these for the tutorial, both images, so you can just follow along and use the one that you think looks better, or you can make your own. But looks pretty decent. So let's say that we like this. By the way, we can actually also just add some more stuff. I think you can even on the B2M here, you have some extra options, but you know what? Let's not touch all of that. Let's say we like this. I do see there's a little bit of a problem, by the way, there with some alpha. I don't think that's going to be a big problem. All right, let's just keep it like this. Let's just export this as texture maps, and then we can go into Houdini and use this shape to generate an actual mesh to do our shot on, because this is going to be a close-up. All right, so we want to export this, and there's a share button here. I'm not sure why they call it share, but anyway, there's an export as button there. Yeah, so we want to export this probably as, let's just do both JPEG and EXR. Right, height, normal, roughness. Let's do specular. Opacity. All right. Right, destination folder. Oh. Right, need to go to this thing, assets, textures. And let's go in there and call it a leaf texture. Go in there, let's copy that path. Select folder, leaf texture. All right, there we go. That seems to be fine. Let's export. Right, so it's gonna do its thing. Probably also gonna export it again, so you can see these are all JPEGs. We get all of our maps here. Let's also export it. Let's also export it as EXRs, just so we have both, because we do want that for our normals and displacement and stuff like that. All right, looking pretty good. I mean, can be better, but for the tutorial now, completely fine. Polish it up as much as you want. Like, go have at it. Try making the most awesome macro pictures. You can get a picture from the internet, but good enough for now. Let's take this into Houdini and use our texture to create an actual mesh. So we have a mesh that's going to match the image that we're going to be we're going to projecting on there later. All right, so we're back in our favorite program, and I have two instances of Houdini open. So here an empty scene and here my animatic. So let's grab our shot setup and let's paste it in our new scene and say shot 020. Then we can save our file. Go to save as. You can see I already did that because in an earlier take something crashed. So let's go to set project and set it to $hip. So that we're in a good location. Now let's go to our animatic. Let's grab our shot 20 and let's grab our models like that. Let's go over here. Let's paste it in there. All right. So now let's go into our subnet here and let's just grab everything. Control X to cut it. And then let's paste it and just delete the original subnet. So it's missing some stuff here. So we probably need to go in here. In hero plant, I believe. Right, and we need to load in our actual peppermint plant. Throw that in there. And in the environment scatter, we also need our plant. Here we go. All right, so now we can look through this thing. Let's rename our cam to actually be called Shield 020, because that's what it should be called. Let's see why our environment scatter is not scattering like we want it to. Right, so it's missing the ground. Right, ground, environment scatter. Oh, yeah, so of course that one also needs to be merged into the correct location. There we go. And again, like if you had your textures turned on, turn them off, hide everything, show it again if it's gonna, because if I gonna turn it on now, it should, yeah, it's gonna give me textures which we don't want. And if I turn it on, you can see it's gonna bug like we had before. So just do it like that and then it should be fixed. All right, so that's set up. So now we can actually start to get going to create our leaf. All right, so let's, maybe while we're working, let's hide all of the other stuff. Let's make a new node. And it's going to be a model. So I guess we could do it in our model section here. Let's call it leaf. All right, let's go in there. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be using this texture that we created before, which is going to be in our texture folder here. We're going to be using that to generate our actual mesh. So let's copy this path that we have here and let's use a trace swap. And I actually see that there's even a trace PSD now. It's actually quite cool. Anyway, so what trace does, trace will trace out an image. So you can see it has circle.pic entered in there, but we can of course do our own thing. So let's go do $root assets, textures, leaf texture, and let's grab the opacity. And you can see now we have our leaf. Super cool. Right, let's rotate it 90 degrees. And let's do a convert after this so we get some actual geometry. And you can see we have quite a lot of points on the edges here. That's probably not what we want. So we can, you can see we can actually get more detail if you want here on the edges. Or can get less, I guess, if we do it like this. All right, so it seems that as it is right now, with this thing, we're not going to be able to get any less. All right, let's just play with some of this this stuff. Over to poly. Level of detail. Right, so then I guess we can even remove our own convert to poly there. So this seems to have reduced it quite a bit. You can just, I guess, play with this thing to try to get a little better geometry. So what we have now is just one single polygon here with all of this stuff. So we probably want to remesh this so we actually get some more geometry. Hard edge group, just put it in there and let's turn down the target size. All right. So now we have our basic leaf over here, which is looking pretty good. So let's try to sort of, before we do anything else, let's just project our actual texture on this. So then we can sort of see how that looks in the viewport. And then after that, we're going to shape this thing a little bit more to actually be a little bit more leaf-like. But if we already can see the texture in the viewport, that's really gonna help out. So let's first enable this. And then we're going to use quick material. So labs quick material. Again, you should have labs tools installed on here. You can install labs packages if you're using the launcher. So let's do smooth shaded. So so here you can go to base color texture, and it still has that highlighted. So let me grab the base color, and of course that's not going to do anything because we don't have a UV yet. So let's do first UV project. All right, let's do initialize the best plane. All right. So you can see this is not really what we want yet. So we see it's stretching out. I guess we could try with the auto UV if actually auto UV does a better job, but we should probably just transform this ourselves. All right, so this does seem to actually match the proportions. I guess we can use a UV transform after that to rotate it. And let's see which axis we need. All right, we need that axis, so let's do 90. And then we're gonna, so if you're gonna use Shift and 5 in here, all right, we should probably put it in the center somewhere. All right, so that's actually, this is transforming the UV in the UV space. And because we already have a texture here, we're mostly just trying to match the UV that we already had. All right, let's just move this sort of into position. And it looks like this is flipped, so we probably need to, let's see which side, I think -1, right? So, all right. And I guess we need to rotate it slightly. So just sort of move it into position. If the edges get cut off a little bit, it's fine. Like, as long as it looks good, it doesn't necessarily matter too much. Actually, our albedo does still have way too much shadow detail in there, which you actually don't want if you're gonna be doing PBR rendering. But I guess for our scenario, this is fine, as long as it's gonna look good in the end. And else we can still rework the texture a little bit later once we get to lighting shading if it doesn't end up holding up, or we could even replace the entire thing. But right, let's just first try to just push this somewhat in position. Right, I'm maybe gonna scale it up just a really tiny bit, just so we have a little bit of a wiggle room. And that doesn't seem to, right? Oh wait, yeah, I need to scale it the other side, of course. That's probably all right. All right, that is looking pretty all right. Not decent because we still have some white stuff there, which I completely missed. All right, something like that, I guess. Because we do want to match the shape for the most part, because we're going to roll something off here. So it's going to be important to actually match the shape and not really use a opacity map if we don't have to. All right, so something like that. We could add the normal if we want, like it doesn't, there's more for visualization, so it doesn't necessarily matter too much. And right. And does this have displacement? I'm not even sure. But this is looking quite fine. So now let's shape this a little bit more to be a little bit more leaf-like, I guess, before we put it into position. So let's maybe bend it a little bit. Capture region. Oh, let's actually highlight that. Probably want to change the origin. All right, something like that. Oh, and we probably want, maybe what we actually want to do is before we do the bend, let's actually move this so the center thing there is in 0. It's going to be a little bit easier to deal with this whole thing later. Right, set capture region. And I can zero this out. All right, so we have some leaf here. So maybe we want to have this sort of be bulging inward in the center a little bit. I guess what we could do is just grab some of this stuff, press enter, move it down, and just do like something like that. All right. So you get a little bit of a something like that. What you could also do is if you wanted to have some more actual detail on the actual mesh, that sort of, because we're gonna add this displacement detail later, but what you could also do is attribute, and we probably need to subdivide this mesh a little bit more. I'm gonna do that. So let's subdivide it. Let's put it to loop. Right, and let's do attribute from map. So it's gonna generate an attribute from the map. And what we could do is we could grab our displacement and height. All right, there we go. So let's turn off our quick material there. I don't particularly like that it's always giving me the UV view in the viewport. That's new in Houdini 19. It's not something I'm particularly fond of. Anyway, it should have the UV or the displacement now as a color. So what we could do is we can go here in the wrangle. And let's fit this first so you can see the maximum values are 0.8 and the minimum values are 0.69. So let's say, all right, v at cd equals fit. Now we're going to fit something. So we're going to not use fit 0, 1. We're going to use a regular fit because this is not from 0 to 1. We're going to fit at cd. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, right, the minimum is 0.649. And then the maximum that we had was, all right, let's go over there, was 0.808. And we're going to fit it from 0 to 1. Right, so now you can see we have a 0 to 1 color value. And is this actually projecting properly? It's so annoying to see with this UV thing on there. It's just let me just delete the UV. Vertex, right? Let's remove it. All right, so this doesn't seem to be proper. Let me check the actual height. Right, so we should get something more like that. All right. So it seems that I have actually moved my UV up one bracket, so it's in a different UDIM. So okay, that's not what I want, so my mistake. Let's actually move it over. Right, so I guess we could just say 0 point, right? And then, right? And then over here, should all still work. Let's turn that off. Attribute from, all right, now you can see it's going to actually add the detail there. Then we have this, and then we're going to fit it, which is looking maybe too extreme even. You know what? Let's actually not fit it. Maybe like it, this is fine. What we want to do is we want to add some normals, post-compute normals. So we're going to add some point normals. Then what we're going to do is attribute wrangle, and we're going to say, all right, we're going to displace the mesh. So we're going to say v at p plus equals add n. So add the normal. If we were to press Ctrl Enter now, it's just going to add the normal to the position. You can see it just displays it into the position, which we don't want. We want to multiply that, let's say, by a slider. So if I were to do that, it's just going to give me a slider in order to offset this with a slider. I also want to multiply this by the color. So let's do another multiply in between and say at CD, let's say point X, just to multiply by a float. You can see now we can use the color to displays our actual leaf geometry, which might be nice for our collision. Like, it's going to be subtle. You might not even do this depending on what you want to do, but now you know that that's something you can do if you want. All right, let's compute some normals. Let's do attribute delete and delete the color that we made. As you can see, now we actually have some geometric leaf detail in there, which is quite cool. Let's get the quick material and put it here at the end. And let's turn on the texture. All right, so now we have actual leaf with some geometric detail that our stuff can roll off of, which is quite nice. And I guess you could add some extra geometry here for that thing, but it's going to be a little bit in the depth of field, so I don't think we particularly need that. But this is looking pretty decent. All right, so maybe want to check if this thing actually looks somewhat decent in when we render the texture. I know we're not going to get to lighting shading yet, but for now what we might want to do is just real quick check it out. So let's make a lob network in here. Let's call it, I guess, put in here, put in out underscore leaf. Oh, let's go in our other view. Let's go into our actual leaf there. Let's go into the lob net. Let's do, right, so that's going to go into Solaris, which is Houdini's new render context, which is finally now. So they've been working on this for quite a few years, and they're getting more and more usable. And as of Houdini 19, it's Karma and Solaris are actually out of beta and working pretty well. So let's do SOP import. I want to import a SOP, and I'm going to get more into this stuff once we get to actual lighting and shading. But for now, let's just try to see if our texture actually holds up a little bit. So let's just load it in there. Let's do a material library. So we're just going to make a material library. We're just going to say, all right, principled shader. And we're going to just add some textures there. Base color. Let's use JPEG. And let's do roughness. And let's do our normals. DXR. Call this leaf. We don't need to really set up this entire material, just so we have some basic understanding of this. All right, let's just say assign to material and put a star in there. All right, let's go to second view. So you can see now we have some kind of a leaf there. Now probably what we want to do is want to add a light here, so we can have something to look at. Let's grab an HDRI so we have something to light our environment. So I probably want to go to Polyhaven, which has a lot of pretty great free HDRIs and models as well. Like they have a lot of cool stuff. All right, so let's just grab something that will be somewhat similar to what we have here. Like, and this doesn't have to be your final HDRI. Let's just grab a pretty sort of generic thing. You know what? Maybe this one actually looks pretty good. Has some trees and everything. All right, let's just download this. Let's put it into our assets HDRI folder. Right, let's download it. It has been downloaded. Then in this light dome, we can go to $root/assets HDRI and let's dirt path. Right, and let's turn on Karma. Increase the intensity, but alright, it's a little bit too specular here. Let's go to, let's turn down the IOR. Let's increase the roughness a little bit. In general, still, like, it's not as sharp as I'd like, to be honest, but it looks reasonable. Alright, let's add some displacement, by the way, because we almost forgot that. Let's go to tag displacement. Let's add texture displacement and go to textures, leaf texture, and heights. Alright, it's a little bit too extreme. Let's return that down. And right, it's not as sharp as I'd like, but I think it holds up reasonably well enough. I might actually swap out the leaf maybe later, but let's just keep it as for now. Like it works well enough, I think, for what we're doing now. And then later, once we get to lighting shading, I guess we can decide if we maybe want to do some more stuff. But I don't want to bother, like, spend too much time for lighting shading for now. We just have our little leaf here. All right, so let's just go to gel. Let's go to first thing. Let's just go out of lobs again. All right, so we have our leaf. Now let's implement our leaf in our actual scene. All right, so let's just go out of there. Let's go to hero plant, or not hero plant, by the way, hero leaf. That's the one. And let's merge our, sorry, yeah, this was the original. You can see this holds up even less. As you can see, there's really not any proper detail there. Or by the way, let's turn off our textures. But let's load our leaf in there. Boom. All right, so we have some leaf. Then we're gonna need to let's remove this transform that we had there, because that's of course not gonna be accurate. All right, let's show all objects, and we probably need to turn on hero plant. I'm gonna need to move this leaf into position. And oh, let's see, hide it over there. All right, let's get it down. You know what? Wait, by the way, 1 second. Let me undo all of this. We could probably make it a little bit easier on ourselves. Let's copy and paste our object merge. Let's put a leaf in there. Oh, and for some reason I seem to have opened a little render bar. All right, so let's just do match. I guess match. No, the match size. Sorry, match size. All right, and we're gonna put that in there, and then we're gonna just have a look at this one. All right, so now it's already in the right spot, so then we can do transform, move center to origin, then zero this out. So it's going to be a little bit easier to just rotate our thing into position. And we don't have to manually go and match this thing. All right. Let's have a look at our camera. All right, we probably want to rotate this straight. Probably change our camera a little bit as well, but let's scale this up a little bit like that. Maybe we can scale it out like that a little bit. All right. Now we got our leaf roughly into place. Let's append a little bend there. Boom. And let's reset that thing. All right. So now we have our setup here working with our nice high-res leaf. And all right, another thing I forgot again, which I had in my other thing, of course. We need to again make this 30 frames per second, 1001 and 1200. I keep forgetting it when I start the scene, but anyway, important to do. There have been times where I forgot to do something like that, and then I later noticed that my settings were not correct. But anyway, now they are correct. Right, let's go here. Let's maybe move a little bit to the side. All right. So basic thing out the way. Let's move our camera a little bit or to match this a little bit better. But now we have our base thing. So let's do our leaf animation, and then we can start working on our drop. All right, so with this leaf out of the way, let's do a little bit of the animation that we wanted before. So there's a droplet gonna hit here, probably like a couple frames in, and then it's gonna bend. So we're gonna do this bend, but we're also gonna do, I think, somewhat of a sort of a, I don't know what to call it, like a floop, a floop animation. We can just basically, because we already have this chops configured, we can probably just put an edit here. And let's see where we roughly want our thing to hit our droplet. So it's probably going to be somewhere like around here. And let's move this down. Right. Let's hide our other stuff. All right, for some reason, it's not really looking like it's moving down. Is this another viewport bug, or is this just right? All right. All right. So gonna do a very slight sort of movement like that with some offset there. We're gonna do a blend shape. And we're gonna blend that thing in. So idea is that there's a droplet gonna hit probably like frame 4 or whatever. So we're gonna blend this in like that real quick. So I guess from frame 2 till let's do frame 4, it's going to be there, and then it's going to be back. Maybe we do want it to be a little bit lower. And not too much. All right, let's disable blend for now. And let's just see what this looks like with chops. Because remember, we still had this chop setup with this jiggle. So if we're going to be viewing this, then right, as you can see, you get a sort of a jiggle there. That's going to be the droplet hitting it. We might even do a slightly larger sort of offset here. All right. And all right, for some reason doesn't seem to completely do the thing. All right. All right, channel. All right, that's weird. All right, let's just continue with the bend. Let's see if I enable the bend. Maybe chops will also Start recooking. It's definitely doing something. Right, that's definitely doing something. All right, I guess I want that to be a little bit less extreme still. But do it however you like it. Right, let's do this this bend animation. Probably want to move this a little bit backwards. I guess set capture region. Probably a little bit back. It's gonna be the right, a little bit like that, and then a little bit like that, and then a little bit longer capture length. All right, something like that. Then we can bend it. Right, let's look to the cam. So it's gonna Droplets gonna hit. Maybe we also want it to, while it hits, also have the front bend back a little bit, and then go up a little bit again, right? Then we're gonna sort of bend it back down here when it's gonna fall, something like that, right? Let's see what that looks like with the chops on there. Now let's cache this out. Let's just put a file cache over here. Just put it to $job. Make sure your $job is set to correct location. Just call it, I guess, leaf animation. And then frame range. Probably like 990 until like 1080. Something like that. All right. Press save. Gonna take a little bit to start up. It's always with chops. Takes like it loads in everything and then it starts doing its thing. So it always takes a little bit to start up, and then it's gonna be afterwards gonna be quite fast. But that looks pretty cool. So let's try this with our solver here. Change the frame range to be something early. I already said, like already the previous take, I'm re-recording now, so that's why it's already set. Something a little bit early, but let's just trying to play this. So we just have this soft body that we're just dropping on there. Again, this is going to be Vellum fluids, but just to get a feel for it. Let's enable our Vellum drop. Let's in our hero leaf, let's go out leaf. So we output our leaf and let's play. You can see you get a quite nice sort of already quite nice effect of the things. So the timing here, of course, is not great, but that's fine for now. But you can already see like it does work pretty well with just this thing hitting it, like it's doing there. So that's all. It's all working pretty well. Boom. Right. So with that out of the way, let's start doing the Vellum fluids. I just want to point out, I did discuss that in my talk, but you might wonder why we're completely doing this with chops here, why we're not making this leaf dynamic. I did do a lot of experiments with it in my original video when I did the original. And of course, you can make that work. It does work. I did have a whole bunch of experiments of it actually working. The problem was just that in order to get, there were a couple of problems, which was, well, first, in order to get both the leaf and the droplet to sort of be stable and like do like just roll off nice, you need a ton of sub-steps, because in order to get the leaf to behave properly, you're going to make it a tetrahedral soft body. So you're going to extrude it a little bit. So you would extrude it, make it tetrahedral soft body, do a bunch of sub-steps in order to have it be like to keep it in to sort of have it be quite rigid. And then you're gonna drop the sphere on there, and the the points, and that's gonna also make it be a lot slower. Another thing there, you have where is it again? So here's some stuff that I needed to change in order to even make this work. Had to disable fallback to first order to disable that. It was just getting really slow, and that wasn't even the main problem, because I did do a whole bunch of iterations for it. The main problem was just that I have a very sort of specific look that I want, right? I wanted to sort of bounce and then like have a specific timing of it rolling off, and it was just easier to just fake the leaf, so just hand animate the leaf, do some chops, give it a dynamic look, and then only making the droplet dynamic. And realistically also like judging like what this course is going to be for, because I was making the demo shot as a demo shot for Vellum, so it, in one sense I wanted to you want it to be more of a sort of a Vellum demo. So for that scenario it would have been nice, but the course is also going to be sort of production oriented course, and you would never spend that much time on sort of trying to get that work. So this is sort of a nice hybrid of like just faking this a little bit with the leaf, works pretty well, and then just doing the Vellum. So just quick explanation of why we are doing what we are doing. Depending on the scenario, like if you have unlimited time and budget, and if you want to do like other stuff, or if you're just playing with yourself, you could have a go at it. But for this scenario, that's why I did it the way that I did it. So with that out of the way, let's actually do the Vellum fluids with the sphere. So with a lot of surface tension, have it sort of drop on it, make nice drops, and then roll off. Going to be quite cool. Let's start doing it. All right, so we can get rid of these things over there, and then we can put into position our Vellum grains. All right, so let's just plug. Oh no, not like that, not like that. Right, let's just do that. Vellum grains. I don't know why I tried to connect it like that, but that's that's weird. All right, so let's connect this to the constraints there, and let's highlight our configure grain, grade points from volume, maybe try a little bit lower. So you can see it's not creating anything. So we were working here on quite a small size, and similar to what we did before, so we probably want to scale up everything. So let's start with this leaf that we have. Let's transform this entire thing up. So let's just first have a look to our thing. All right, so we're gonna scale it up here 10 times. And then we're gonna go, no, we don't necessarily need to put a transform there. We just want our sphere to sort of be a lot larger, and then just, I guess, move it into position. Let's just template it, and then just move this into position in the leaf. Right, there we go. All right, it's probably too big. Let's just do a little bit smaller. All right, so something like that. So now we should be able to get some grains from it. You can see we get some nice grains. Let's just have a look at if the size actually seems fine. So the size I think looks okay, maybe a tiny bit bigger. 2.3. And maybe let's do a little bit more points. 0.15, and let's make it a fluid. All right. Let's just drop this, and we can go from there to see what it's gonna do. Let's already increase these. So let's, by the way, maybe start with frame 1001. And what I already know that I'm probably gonna do, but let's just first start dropping it, is in my original thing. I also did that. I introduced some force to sort of push it apart in the beginning, so we get some nice separate droplets, because that's really hard to get if you just drop it. But let's first try to sort of roughly get the look that we want from our fluid with the things that we learned in the previous episode. So let's just first drop this with the step steps here to 5, because I already know that 1 is not going to be enough. And let's increase the time scale to 1. Right, let's play. All right, so that obviously doesn't look like something we want. I mean, it looks like sort of a splashing fluid and then it just flows upward of it, but this is where these things of course come in. So let's turn on surface tension. Let's shoot this to calculate uniform. And I already know that this is probably going to be too high, but let's just play with this. Might actually... Right, let's put this down, maybe like 500, and let's put up the surface tension. Let's just try 100. All right, you can already see this is already starting to look a little bit like we want it to. Of course, this is sort of now just sticking here into place. It's probably don't want what we want. Let's maybe turn off, like just turn friction off. But I think it's mostly sticking here in position because it is also just, we need to probably move the leaf down a little bit. So you can already see putting friction to 0 is helping, because it keeps sort of sliding. Maybe we do want a little bit of friction, by the way. Like maybe 0.05, just a very tiny bit. But in general, that sort of look here looks pretty decent. We might even get a little bit more points going. And again, you don't want to go overboard with this, maybe a little bit less, because if you can get a good look out of less points, it's generally, it can be better to even to not have too many. Right, let's move these down a little bit. Let's maybe increase the surface tension even more. Like, let's say 300. All right, okay. And you can see we get these really nice sort of tendril-like shapes. And maybe we do want a little bit more friction. But you do see that sort of in the beginning, it really does give this, like it tries to sort of stay sort of one part here, which we don't want. Maybe I'm gonna increase the surface tension even more. I want it to really sort of be, right, to really stay together. All right. All right, yeah, now we are properly getting sort of, you can see these droplets here. And again, you can see these like the density and the other stuff is really important together. Let's try 820. This is really slowly crank it up. But I can already show you, like, we're not gonna get the nice sort of breaking up of droplets that we want. We want it to sort of really feel like it's sort of hitting and splashing out. And I tried that a lot, but you're always going to keep getting this sort of yeah, what we're getting here. It's more like it looks like a sort of an elongated drop. So probably know what we want. Maybe let's do the sphere a little bit smaller now. So that's where we're going to introduce some forces in order to sort of push this apart in the beginning. So in the beginning that we will sort of split this up into sort of multiple parts to see like, so we just add like velocity in different directions in the beginning, and then that will push it apart into individual sort of pockets. And then those individual pockets will be simulated separately. And one thing that I'm actually curious about, which I didn't do in my original, is we could actually also try to use the face in order to get something like this done. So I didn't do that in my original thing, but we could try. We could just see what it's gonna do. I mean, so face will, like, if it's a different face, what it's gonna do, it's gonna treat it as a separate fluid. So let's just try that. Like, I'm just curious to see what it's gonna do, and I think it might make for interesting result. But this is going to be new to me as well. But again, that's like, this stuff is about experimenting, and we're trying to emulate a production environment. All right, so let's do a noise. Terminal noise based on the position. Let's output it into color. Let's promote all these parameters. And let's turn down the roughness. Let's increase the frequency. Right, we have something like that, I guess. All right, and we want to maybe, let's round to integer. So we get something like that. So it's going to round it either to being 0 or to being 1. And let's just try to write this out as a, and again, I'm just curious to see what this is gonna do. Like, this might look very weird, but I'm just curious. Let's write this out as being the face. All right, face. Let's just first try this, and else we can always also change some other stuff like the densities on it. But I'm just wondering what this is gonna do, because now it's gonna simulate these things as separate fluids. So that might be cool. Let's have a look at our face actually there. Phase 0, phase 1, or we probably want to fit this. Fit range 0 to 1, 1 to 2. All right. So now we're gonna have a phase here, which is gonna be 1 and 2. All right, let's just try. I'm just curious to see what it's gonna do. All right, that's actually pretty interesting. This actually already looks very similar to what I had before. So let's just stick with this. I mean, this is not what I did before. This is just an idea that I had while recording this, and this actually seems to be working quite well. So let's just stick with it. I mean, why not? All right, let's increase the friction. Like, it's just, you can see how just changing this phase, what it's going to do is each of these pockets will be treated as separate fluids. So what's happening there is that the surface tension is going to work individually on those things. So you can see these pockets are now just being pulled together individually at the beginning, which gives us these sort of nice droplets. Super cool. Let's increase the substeps a little bit. We still need to introduce this velocity in the beginning, because it's just dropping and just looking weird. Probably want to have this be starting lower a little bit as well, still. So we want to probably start this on the leaf and then cut off the bottom part. So what I'm gonna do for that, I'm gonna have this thing here. I'm gonna poly extrude it out. Extrude it downwards, output back. Just move it over a little bit. And I'm gonna say VDB from polygons. Don't forget to say output back, else this is not gonna work. Let's increase the voxel size. All right, so we get a little bit of a voxel thing. So the only reason we're doing this is because now we can do a wrangle here. We can do a volume sample. And the volume sample is gonna look at a volume, and then we can determine if it's inside, then it can see that it's inside, and then we can delete it. So we can say, right, float sample equals volume sample, first input, because that's going to be that one. Let's just open up the help file. So we get, the primnum or the volume name. So it will be surface. And then the position would be P. If it says vector, it's going to be we're going to use an add. Sometimes it says string for position, and you need to put it between those things. Anyway, now we have a sample, which is going to be either positive or negative when it's inside. I always get it the wrong way. But we say, right, if sample is below 0, remove point, and then 0 at pt num. All right, that seems to work. So you can see the stuff inside there is going to be deleted. You can see we need to extrude it a little bit more. Right, so now we're starting on the leaf here, actually. We could probably have a little bit of a threshold here. All right, so 0.01, so it's going to be like that. So now it's actually starting on the leaf. Boom. All right. That's pretty cool. You can see we already get these nice pockets here now. And again, you could increase this thing here if you want to have more phases. I guess we could do is let's just leave it to 2 for now. I'm just thinking, how could you would do that before. So you would first fit it, and then you would rint it. All right, let's put it in between. And then let's say destination max is going to be 4. Let's see if this works. All right, now you can see we had 4 phases. I'm not sure if that's going to be any better. Might be too extreme. So you can see we get lots more smaller droplets. Let's try 3. I'm actually excited that I just, while recording this, discover something that actually works better. So that's interesting. That's also why I kind of always like doing these tutorials, because sometimes you discover something new by either questions from you guys or when I'm just in the mood for trying something new while I'm working on it. All right, so you can see some stuff still gets pushed off. But let's add some velocity. So let's say that this thing is going to be the phase. So set phase. And here, let's add some velocity. So we want to set some velocity outwards from the center here. So what I'm probably going to do is let's create a reference copy. There's multiple ways to do this, but let's create a reference copy from our sphere here. Let's put it to, let's put the, and is it actually referencing? All right, so let's remove the primitive type. Let's make from polygon and put that to primitive. So then it's going to be primitive instead of polygon. Aside from that, the position is linked. So if I were to move this or change this, then that one will also change. But now this is treated as 1 point, and I can load that into this thing. Let's call this set vel. All right. Now we're gonna import point attribute. Import point attribute. All right. So I'm going to import from the second input. I'm going to import the position. So I'm going to import the single point position value of this 1 point, because this sphere now gets treated as primitive, and the position is going to be the center. So it's going to also be the center of our sphere that we have here. So that's pretty cool. All right, then we can say subtract. We're going to subtract some stuff. So we're going to subtract from our point position. So it's going to be the position of each individual point here. We're going to subtract that position in the center. Let's write it out as a normal to just see what it's going to do. Oh, and we need to... So now it's doing it for just the 1 point. We probably want to modulo this. All right, so here we have this point number. So it's now doing it only on point 0 and then applying it to everything. Want to do point number. Want to modulo the point number probably. Right. So modulo is just going to repeat this thing. So it's going to do it now for every point number. So as you can see now, this is working fine. So I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. So by default, it's going to load the sort of the 1 point here. So there's 1 point and it's going to load in the position and then it's going to subtract the position from the same point here. And it's going to apply that. With the modulo here, it's going to just repeat that thing for every point. And that's why we're now going to get, you can see these sort of normals facing outward. Of course, we don't want to write this out as a normal. Hopefully this somewhat makes sense, by the way. Anyway, the end result is this. So now we have those normals. Let's do turbulent noise. Let's plug in position. And let's multiply. Let's make everything a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. Let's multiply by that noise. Let's promote these parameters. Let's increase the frequency. So you can see now we're gonna get a sort of a noisy thing that's going to be pushed out, which looks something like that. Of course, this is going to be useless when we do this in the normal, aside from having a nice visualizer. So we're going to do it in the velocity. You can, I guess, remove it from there, or we can keep it in the normal if we want, just as a visualizer. Now, if we're going to play this, it's going to use the velocity that we generated here, and for some reason it's not doing the visualizer for the velocity, which is a pretty common bug. Sometimes it just doesn't do that. So the way to fix it is just make our own visualizer. Press D in the viewport, go to visualizers, and let's do marker. Let's do vector trope. I always forget which one. Let's do vector. All right. All right. Right, so you can see we got and I think it needs to be point trail or vector trail or vector. Right, vector. Here we go. Now we have visualized this one. I guess we can turn it off again, but so you know. Well, let's just play this. And now it's going to get some initial velocity. As you can already see it working. So some are going to be pushed up a little bit here. Probably needed to be a little bit more extreme, but you can see this one being pushed up there. So probably want in this set val, want to probably multiply this by a constant. So let's call it multiply and multiply. All right. So now we have an overall multiplier here. Let's, by the way, reduce the roughness on that thing. And can actually, if we want to visualize that again, let's do a marker. Let's increase the multiply here. So you can see we're really increasing the speed in which these are going to be pushed out. So let's have a look. All right. that is starting to look pretty good. And I guess we should transform this down here so we can actually look to our camera. 0.1. And then look to our camera. And then these points are going to be way too big. So again, we need to multiply here the P scale. So multiply P scale. And let's say f at P scale times equals 0.1 times equals. All right, there we go. And we want to visualize the hero leaf. Right, so let's already, to do this at the top level, let's go in our big drop. Let's load our out drop there. And maybe let's call this, instead of hero leaf, let's call this sim. Let's color code this. And let's do a separate node for our hero leaf. So we can just grab our hero leaf so we don't get confused as much. So let's do hero plant or hero leaf. Oh, what am I doing? Hero leaf. All right. And that's in hero leaf. Let's do out leaf. All right. And in big drop, we're going to do big drop. All right. All right. All right. Now we can actually look through our thing here. Boom. Probably want to add some velocity to this. Let's hide. Let's template our thing here again. Let's go to this thing. Probably want to add some more velocity in actually this way, sort of in the direction of the leaf. So we can just add stuff to this. Let's remove this from the normal, by the way. We just say add. Let's promote that. Let's make it a vector. And let's call it add V. So we have an add velocity parameter now. So that will just simply add to the velocity. So if we were to, let's say in the Z, so that's going to be positive Z, that's going to be negative Z. So let's say if we type -5 here, we're going to then press play here. Let's uncheck that. You can see it will be pushed in that way quite significantly. Now, don't want it to be that significant. Let's say 0.5. So 0.5 that direction, and maybe also positive 0.x also as well. Right. Right. So now we're pushing it somewhat into the direction that we want. Let's increase the substeps a little bit. Let's see if we can get this a little bit more stable without points flying off. I did have that still in my original where I still had a couple of points flying off, but we are getting pretty close to what we want. Boom. So I think I'm gonna maybe change the noise a little bit that we have here to be a little bit less extreme. I want a little bit less drops, I think. I think that maybe I'm gonna change the phase to be, let's maybe also promote these parameters, by the way. We can say how many phases, set phase. All right. So we have a control here, how many phases we want. So set phase, let's say set phase is 2. All right. We have 2 phases there. All right, yeah, that might be a little bit more in the direction that we want. And right, let's have a look at it over here. Boom. Right, so we want this to be a little bit slower. Let's just try with the time scale over here. Let's just maybe view it actually on the second input there. All right. All right. All right. I'm liking it. Yeah, buddy. All right. And that last drop, I think that's the one we're going to be following. You know what? I think I like this. I mean, we're not following the entire thing, but boom, we're following the last one. I say this is pretty good. Let's cache this out before we mash it up. Let's put it in there. Let's say $job. Let's say it. Let's say drop hit. Let's save it out until like 1080. All right, got it cached out. So now let's mesh this. We probably want to get rid of these individual points maybe. So let's do the same thing that we did before in the previous shot. Let's just write it out again. We could copy and paste it, but cool individual. But I mean, repetition makes perfect, I guess. So let's just do it again. Integer MPT array equals near points. Open up the help again. Zeroed input because we want it to be itself. The vector and then the maximum distance. Let's say channel max dist. And then channel I max PT. All right. And then integer array at MPT equals, or not. Yeah, all right. Equals MPT. Just check that out. All right, let's have a look at our array. MPT, where are you? Right, you can see we're getting some stuff there. I'm gonna decrease the all right, I'm really gonna need to decrease the maximum length there. Okay. Something like that. Right. Let's say integer len equals the length of MPT, or the len of MPT, sorry. And then if len is lower than 2, remove point. Right. Can remove that thing. We do still have these pockets of like 2, but when they are actively being removed, maybe actually, I'm not sure if I want that. So maybe we should just keep them. Right, you know what? Yeah, so let's just disable it for now. Let's see if we actually need it. Let's mesh this. Let's do particle fluid surface. Maybe it will actually just look good without this whole thing. Right, let's do very tiny point separation. Maybe we want to, let's just mesh this before we scale it down. So we have a little bit more normal values to work with. Can still look at it here in the correct view, but Something like that. Influence radius. Right, filtering. Smooth. Looking good. All right, I think this might actually already get rid of all of this stuff. All right, let's do droplet scale. Boom. Right. So it's a little bit on the smaller side than I had before, but I think for the tutorial now, this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna keep it like that. It's actually, the meshing here is relatively fast. So you could just keep it like this, or you could cache it out, but seems to be relatively fast. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna mesh it out for now. Maybe we could do that later. All right, so I guess a couple more things that we still need to do is that we need to do so we need to time offset this a little bit, and then we need to sort of, or do we need to do that? Yeah, in the first couple of frames we want to have this sort of, or 2 frames just be a sphere and then move down. So I guess what we could do is just time shift this thing off. Let's say -2. Let's turn this file cache and let's say go to loads, and then say, right, where is it? It's located on this new one. All right. Oh yeah, set to missing frame no geometry. That is good because we don't want it to error. All right. So we also want to do reference copy. We also want to offset the actual leaf because it's of course colliding with that. So that should be correct like that. And then let's grab our sphere. You have it up there. Let's put it over here. I guess we could just put a switch. Let's put our switch that we have here. Let's that one's going to be 10 times too big, so let's scale it down 10 times. Right, I think, or am I? All right, yeah, there we go. So probably want this, let's make it a little bit smaller. 22. Let's, in the first 2 frames, let's have this be a little bit higher. Let's have it be there. And then frame after, let's have it be very close to there. Right, so we have, and then we're gonna switch $F after frame 1002 is gonna be switching to different input. Are we new? So then we're gonna have, we probably wanted to do after frame 1003. And we probably want this to be 1 more frame. Maybe we want this to start up a little bit higher. And all right, something like that. Maybe we want our camera to actually also start maybe a tiny bit higher. All right, let's flipbook this and let's see what it looks like. All right, so I'm just gonna do 1920 1080. All right, let's have a look. So maybe you do want the sort of the initial impact to be a little bit more explosive. Because now it's a little bit blip. But again, maybe that's what you like. I had a little bit more extreme in my original. But aside from it, like, this looks pretty good. So that's almost concluding this shot. The only thing that maybe do we have... All right, that's actually already concluding our shot. Maybe we do want to have the hero plan. We probably need to move this back a little bit because this is not connecting properly to where our let's transform it over here because I don't want to mess anything else up, right? Because it's not connecting properly to where we have it. So let's do something like that. All right. Boom. Right, this is the one more flipbook. And then after that, I think we're ready with this shot. At least until, of course, we're gonna be lighting and shading this. But yeah, pretty interesting chapter, I think. Of course, we're still gonna be putting this in Premiere, but overall, like we've done a lot of cool stuff. Like we've made our own leaf texture. We've made a very cool sort of droplet hit thing. But yeah, let's export this as a flipbook. All right, like that. Let's make a folder called flip. Let's call it SESI-Snacks. Snacks shot 020 underscore V01. There we go. Oh, I am actually forgetting a couple of things that we're going to be needing to do here. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We want some rain to fall in front of here. It's going to be a little bit hard to judge already. And there's one thing that I think I might come back to this shot in a little bit. So let's first do shot 1 because, okay, let me just explain what's going to happen. So we're going to need to add some droplet hits on these leaves. So on some leaves, so like falling droplets. And then we're going to do that in shot 1, right? Because it's raining there. It's also raining here. So we're going to need to prepare some plants where droplets are going to fall on. So we can either do that in that shot, in this shot, and then bring it over to shot 1, or we can do it in shot 1 and then bring it over to shot 2. And I think I'm going to do it in shot 1 because there it's very much pronounced, and here it's very much in the background, and I think it's going to probably be better to just do it on our plant in shot 1 and then bring it back in this shot. I think that's going to make more sense. So let's just call this down for now, and then we're going to do shot 1, and we're going to briefly go back to this shot in order to re-implement some of those things. So let's just add this in Premiere and see what this looks like in the edit. All right, so we're here inside Premiere. Let's go to our actual shot here. Let's review on project. Let's import this thing. All right, let's go there, flip, let's load it in. And let's try to put it on top. All right, let's just try to sort of fit this. Sorry. All right. Maybe we can move it even more because I want it to sort of be, all right, a little bit back. Just sort of trying to match what we had before. That actually works really well. You can see the thing roll off here. And then it starts at the top. So it's actually a perfect cut. All right. I'm liking it. Yeah, well, that wraps up this video. Pretty cool. I actually discovered the thing with the face here myself. So that's a nice trick. So let's move along to the next, or the previous shot, whatever you want to call it. We're going to do this one. We're just going to take some of these things that we learned here. So we're going to be adding some of these environment, or some of these drops on the leaves. We're going to add some to the environment here. So there's also drops going to be falling on these environment leaves. So that's going to be similar to something we did here. So going to be quite exciting. So I'll see you in the next video.